Hey everybody, welcome back. Today we're making a different kind of dish, something we haven't done a lot of. Well, I guess we have done quite a bit of Asian. So anyway, ignore all of that babble. What we're going to make today is spaghetti squash chow mein. It's yummy. If you like Asian food, if you like chow mein, which I love, this is a really interesting way to do it. So instead of the noodles that you normally use in chow mein, we're going to use spaghetti squash. Yummy. So this dish, I'm using shrimp, and that's what the recipe calls for. But you can substitute chicken. You could do pork. I don't know that I would do beef. I mean, you could, but that probably wouldn't be my first choice. But anyway, shrimp and chicken's really good, but shrimp's my fave, and I'm not a huge shrimp eating person. But anyway, first thing we're gonna do, so you can see there's my shrimp right there, boop. I had a pound of Gulf shrimp in the freezer that a family member had brought to us, and so I'm pretty excited to use that. So the first thing we have to do is roast our spaghetti squash. Not hard at all. You just have to be super careful. So we're gonna prep it, get it in the oven. My oven's preheating to 400 degrees. And then while that's roasting, we're gonna prep our other ingredients. And then when it comes out of the oven, it all goes together really quickly. So the spaghetti squash is your longest thing. But it's still, still really, really quick. So anyway, let me turn the camera down and quit babbling and we'll get busy. Okay, so you need a 2-pound spaghetti squash, which is going to give you roughly 1 pound of flesh when it's all said and done. So that's just kind of a good rule of thumb. It's not an exact science, but it's pretty dang close. If you need a pound of the spaghetti, then get a 2-pound. This is actually about a little over 2.5 pounds. It's fine. I'm using what I've got. If you need 4 pounds, then you cook 8 pounds. You get the math. So just a little quick tip there. The easiest way to do this I have found, and y'all be careful. It's not hard to do, but you need to be really careful because cutting into something round and hard, you can slip and cut yourself really easily, and that's not what you want to do. So what we're going to do is cut the spaghetti squash in half long ways. Now see, you'll see some dirt where it was on the ground. I don't worry about washing it because this outside peel is going into the pasture to the goats. So it doesn't matter to me. Got down here to the stem end. Whoops. And it's a little bit tougher to pull apart. There you go. See, that wasn't that hard. You just have to be careful. And you're really just cutting through this flesh because it's hollow on the inside with seeds. So now what we'll do is get a spoon and scrape the seeds out. That goes out to the goats. We'll rub a little oil. I'm going to use lard. I would recommend lard or bacon grease. You could use, ooh, I've got some duck fat. I may use that. And then it's going to go on my baking sheet with my parchment paper. Easy cleanup. Pop it in the oven upright like this and let it cook for about 30 minutes. And then I check it because depending on the size of your spaghetti squash will dictate how long it takes to cook. So unless you're doing some little tiny one, which I would never do something that small, then you're going to want to let it go probably about 30 minutes and then check it. So hold tight. Let me grab a spoon. I didn't have one ready. Okay, so all you have to do is take your spoon and literally, and if you've worked with spaghetti squash in the past, just fast forward through this. But you're just going to kind of skim that out. And see, see the kind of spaghetti looking stuff that's all there is to it. And see, no seeds. I don't worry about that little bit. I mean, if that bothers you, you can get it out, but it's the inside, so it works for me. And then we'll do this side. And I will say the bigger your squash is, the little bit tougher it'll be to cut and to clean. It won't change the flavor, I don't think, but it just will change the prep difficulty, I guess, for lack of a better term. And that little seed just wants to bounce back in there. That's all there is to it. So now, boy, I'm not very prepared, am I? Let me get my oil. I'll be right back. Okay, so I changed my mind. I've got this garlic avocado oil, which is just the oil that's a little bit extra when I roasted some garlic back a few months ago. It'll last in the fridge for a while. And I'm just going to put a little bit in here. And then just for the sake of easy cleanup, because I don't want to get my hands all googly, I'm going to throw a glove on. And then you just want to kind of rub this around and just get it all over the fleshy part. You know, you don't do the outside, obviously, because that's going in the trash or the compost or to your animals, depending on what you got. And then we'll do this one. And I would guess that's probably a half to 3/4 of a teaspoon of oil. You don't want oil puddling in there. You just want enough to rub. Ooh, there's another seed. Rub and get it all coated. And then I will, a little salt and pepper. Just kind of like you're seasoning an egg. And then on the baking sheet it goes. And then it'll go in the oven just like that. And it'll go 30 minutes and then we'll check it. So I'm going to clean this up out of the way and get the next step out, or get the next step ready, and we'll move on. And this is what you can do when you're making this. Get your spaghetti squash in the fridge, good golly, in the oven, and then prep your other ingredients unless you prep ahead. And I've got the prep ahead steps listed. There's a lot of these things you can do the day before, the weekend before, whatever, and make the evening of super fast. Okay, so now we're going to make our sauce, for lack of a better term. And literally all this dish is you have your spaghetti squash, you'll have this sauce. We're going to cook some vegetables down, onion, celery, carrots, throw in the shrimp, stir in the cabbage, just takes a few minutes. Then you throw in the spaghetti squash and this sauce, and that's it. That is how easy this dish is. So what we'll do is, it's a 1/4 cup of aminos. So you've heard me say a million times, I need to shake this up better because you want all that goodie on the bottom to get mixed up. Okay, so I do it half and half. So I'm just going to eyeball. Well, actually, I'll just use that up because that's the end of that bottle. Boom, I got to get some more. And the other half will be the aminos. So we've got a 1/4 cup of aminos. You can do all coconut, you can do all liquid, whatever you have, whatever works. Then we're going to add in our sesame oil, a really good brand. This organic toasted sesame oil is the best. Oh, it smells so good. So we need a teaspoon of that. So get that in there. And then we need our garlic. I already measured out. I've got a tablespoon of minced garlic that I just mashed up over here because, I don't know, y'all seen me do that a bajillion times. I didn't figure that was really necessary. Then we need a tablespoon of coconut sugar. Let's see if I can get this open. There we go. So there's our tablespoon, and then I'm gonna mix that in. Now you want a teaspoon of ginger. You can use ground ginger. I've got some ginger juice, and again, shake up that bottom to get all the sediment mixed in. I've used ground a million times. I like the ginger juice. It's handy. I have it, so I'm going to use it. So there's your teaspoon of ginger juice. And then we need a 1/4 teaspoon, and I didn't get that out, of white pepper. So that's white pepper. If you don't have that in your little arsenal, I would recommend you get some. You don't have to use much of it. It's hotter than black pepper, but not as hot as cayenne. I guess would be the best way to describe it. So there's my 1/4 teaspoon. So, and we'll just mix this around. Okay, and that's all there is to that. So again, if you're doing prep ahead, this is a step you can do ahead. If you got a little lid for your bowl, pop it on there. You can label it, pop it in the refrigerator, and then the next day it's just whip all this stuff together. So I'm going to move all this out of the way, and then we'll get to cutting up our vegetables. Okay, so our next step is prepping the veggies. Ugh, that's kind of gnarly looking. And I almost got in here, well, not almost, I did sort of get in here and start, I don't know where my head was. I was prepping and didn't turn the camera on like a ding-dong. So all I did was cut my onion in half and peel the skin off. That's not a big deal. And then I took a couple of pieces of celery and cut them lengthwise, just because I like my celery pieces a little smaller. But you can do it however you want to do. So all we're going to do on this is you want a 1/2 pound of onion, and this is a 1/2 pound of onion, cut pretty thin. I mean, I like it thin because I like it to kind of blend in with the other flavors. I don't want to crunch down on some big, huge piece of onion. So I do mine pretty dang thin. You know, again, it's one of those, you can do it the way you want to do it. If you like bigger chunks, go for it. But I love the onion flavor, but I just don't want to bite down into a big old chunky piece of onion. So we'll just go through and cut this up. I won't make y'all sit here and watch me do all of this. And then on the celery, I cut it kind of, you want to do it on, I mean, this is just foo-foo look, on the diagonal. It just kind of gives it, I don't know, more surface area. And I'm not a humongous fan of celery, so I do my pieces kind of small. You could do them larger. Again, it's based on what you like. But we need a cup of celery. So I just kind of go on an angle. I mean, if you used a whole piece of celery, like I said, like a dodo, I went down the middle of each rib and cut it in half because I like my pieces smaller. If you didn't do that, then you'd have bigger slices. And I actually had 3 kind of short ribs here. And that's going to be a little bit more than I needed. So probably 2 good-sized ribs would give you what you need. Move this off. And then we're going to cut a pound of cabbage into really thin slices. And then I like to cut my shrimp in half. I don't, you know, I act like I'm 5 years old or something. I want little tiny bites. When I eat something like this, I like a little bit of everything in each bite. So if I've got big, huge pieces of shrimp, then I'm not going to get other flavors in that same bite. So that's why I like to cut my shrimp in half. And I can get a little bit of shrimp, a little bit of celery, a little bit of onion, spaghetti squash, you know, all of it in one bite. So that's just me being whanny. All right, so I'm going to dump this. I'm going to finish cutting my onion up, and then I'll get the cabbage. We'll work on that a little bit. We'll do the shrimp, and then we are just about ready. Okay, so here's my cabbage. I had this little head of cabbage. I just cut it in half because I need 1 pound, and this just happens to be actually an ounce or 2 over a pound. So when I get my core cut out of it, I should be right where I need to be. So what we want to do is slice this in little thin slices. So these are probably, I mean, not even quite 1/4 of an inch. And usually what I do, you know, back to my baby bites, is I'll come back and cut it that way. So I'm not pulling like big long pieces of cabbage and trying to stuff all that in my mouth and looking real ladylike. So I'll take it all this way and then just go once down this way. Just so, you know, the longest is about like that. So there's our cabbage. Set this off to the side. And then I'm going to cut my shrimp. I'm not going to make y'all watch me cut a pound of shrimp, but I am literally, I mean, these are, you know, fresh, raw, no tails, no heads, and I'm just in half like that. So it's more of a bite-sized piece. And that's all I'm going to do with my shrimp. A little piece of a tail. Just so it's not quite as big a bite. And then when the spaghetti squash comes out of the oven, we'll be ready. I'm going to get some lard, saute our veggies, you know, we'll see all this, and add the shrimp, toss in the spaghetti squash, add in the sauce, and dinner is served. Okay, I just wanted to show y'all, I just pulled this spaghetti squash out of the oven. It's been in there. I did 30 minutes, checked it, wasn't ready, did another 15, and it's still not quite ready. My oven isn't as hot as it ought to be. But you see how it's kind of a globby. The little strands aren't separating real easily. See, it's kind of chunky. And it's not coming away from the sides as easy as it should. So ignore that butternut squash I was roasting. That's a whole separate thing. But I'm going to pop this back in the oven for another 15. Okay, so the spaghetti squash has cooled off enough. I had actually went out to feed, and so it's really cool. But it kind of helps if you let it cool off, because then you can handle it like this a lot easier. And see how you just use your fork and just kind of scrape. I mean, again, if you've done spaghetti squash, skip this part. If you haven't, this is all you got to do. Just getting it all out of there. And then I'll usually take it and like either with my fingers, kind of pull it apart. Because I mean, it's like spaghetti. It's such a trip. And just make sure it's not in big clumps and it's all separated. And then it will be ready to dump in the pan after we get the other steps done. So I won't make y'all sit here and watch me wrestle this, but that's all you got to do is scrape it away. And that is roasted spaghetti squash. And see, again, you just want to separate that stuff. Cool, I can smell the garlic from that garlic oil. It smells super good. Okay, I'll finish and then we'll get busy putting the last steps together. Well, I got finished shredding my spaghetti squash, and I'm cruising along and about to start putting things together and realized I didn't do my carrots. So, missed that. You need a 1/4 pound of carrots, and you just want to cut them small. But again, cut them however you want. If you like them bigger, cut them bigger. These are pretty skinny little carrots, so these ends I'm just going to cut real thin, and then as I get down here, I'm going to split it, probably 1/4 it towards the end, and just cut them in, you know, little pieces, a little bigger than that. I mean, that was just the tip that I cut off. But I'll get these cut up real quick, and then we'll be ready to put it all together. It's always good when you have all the ingredients in the recipe. So I'll do this real fast and I'll be right back. Okay, so I've got my big skillet and I just put in, I've got a couple tablespoons of lard that I was just melting in here. Duck fat would be really good. I thought I had some, but I have duck stock, not duck fat. So lard's what I'm using. And so now what we're going to do is add, I've got my carrots that I almost forgot, onion and celery in this bowl. So I'm going to get this hot and then add all of this. You know, I probably should have got my brazier out because this is going to be a pretty full skillet, but that's okay. And we're just going to stir this around. I mean, you're literally stir frying. So you just want to move it around in the skillet, kind of get it all coated. And then you're going to let it sit for a couple minutes. You know, let the heat come in contact with the vegetables. Then stir it some more. Then let the heat come in contact. You know, just kind of go around with that. And this is another one of those things. However crispy you like your veggies, do it that way. I'm more on the, I like them kind of crispy side. The Hubs is more on the, I mean, not the onions. I don't want no crispy onions. Actually, if I was doing it just for me, I'd put the onions in first. Let them soften up some, then add celery and carrots. But that's because I'm not a big crispy onion person. But the Hubs isn't a crispy any veggie person in something like this. So I'm going to get it pretty soft. I'm probably going to let it go, I don't know, 5 to 8 minutes and get everything good and soft. And then from there, we'll add the shrimp. Let it, you know, it takes that long to cook. And then add the cabbage, let it wilt down. And when we add the cabbage, also add our sauce that we made a few minutes ago. And once that's all good and cooked into, you know, whatever level of wiltiness you like, then you toss in your spaghetti squash that's been shredded. And there you have it. Spaghetti squash chow mein. So, I'm going to let this keep going for another few minutes. So I'm going to pause so y'all don't have to sit here and watch me do this. And then we'll pick back up with the next step. But I'm telling y'all, you get the things prepped, have them stuck in your fridge, you can pull this meal together in 20 minutes. Once you get everything prepped. And even the prep isn't that big of a deal. Just saying. If you want something fast for a weeknight, prep this on the weekend and then throw it in your skillet when you get home from work and you'll be done. Have supper on the table in no time. Okay, so this is getting pretty good. I would like it a little softer when I eat it, but the husband wants it a lot softer. But I don't want to turn it into baby food by the time I get through all the steps. So now I'm going to add my shrimp. Dump all that in there, and we'll stir it around real good. And like I mentioned, shrimp doesn't take that long to cook. I don't let it get 100% cooked at this step because I'm then going to add my cabbage and let it wilt down so the shrimp will continue to cook while the cabbage wilts. So, this is so fresh and so tasty, and it's really filling. And you can easily get 6 good servings, probably 8 easily, out of this meal. All right. See how my shrimp's starting to turn pink? Not all of it. Some of it's still kind of gray. And I've got my fire up pretty high because I want it, you know, I want it to cook kind of quickly. I don't want to just let it sit here and slow cook and kind of steam. Okay, all the shrimp in where it needs to be, but it's all pretty close. So now, I'll tell you what, I'm going to make a little opening here, and I'm going to start adding my cabbage so it can start wilting. And I'll put the hot food on top of it in the pan, and that'll just help it wilt even more. So I can move some of this over, make another little spot. Yeah, I should have got my brazier out. It'd be a better dish to do, or pot to do this in, because it's got higher sides, and I'd be able to sling my stuff around a lot better. Not have to worry about stuff going over the side of the skillet. because this skillet just about not big enough. All right, so there's all my cabbage. And then we're also going to add our sauce. I want to try and get this stirred around good. Ooh, I need a bigger skillet. I tell you what, I'm going to reach over and grab a second utensil so I can kind of stir it with two hands. I think it'll be a lot easier. Okay, so yeah, if you get in here and kind of almost like you're tossing a salad, do it like this. It's easier to get this stuff moved around. Ooh, now my onions are getting just like I like them. They're soft and not super crunchy. The cabbage doesn't take long at all. And my heat's still up pretty high right now. All right, I'm going to go ahead and pour my sauce. And then just stir this around real good. This is actually a great chow mein base, for lack of a better term, if you wanted to use noodles instead of the spaghetti squash. Because you can get to this point and then get your noodles of choice cooked and toss them in here, and there you go. You got shrimp chow mein. Or like I mentioned, I think I mentioned earlier, you can do it with chicken. Pork would be really good. Never tried it with beef, and the more I think about it, the more I'm kind of enticed to do that. Okay. Now, I'm going to turn my heat off. Yowzer, that handle was hot. Because I don't want it to keep wilting too much and get mushy. And I'm going to get my spaghetti squash over here. I had it in this bowl, and I was just taking a couple of forks and just making sure that, you know, I didn't have any big chunks from where I shredded it out of the spaghetti squash shell or whatever. So I'm going to finish that. Actually, I'll try and turn this around. I mean, it's not any really big fancy thing, but just to show you what I'm talking about. So I've got my squash, and then I'll just put it in this bowl that I had the other vegetables in and just kind of do this. Just to make sure. You see that little chunk? Sometimes your squash will come out of your, I don't know why I keep wanting to say core, out of your skin or shell or whatever, the outer layer of the squash in little chunks. And you want it more spaghetti-like. So, I mean, you could do that in here, but it's just a little more challenging because you got all these other vegetables in here. All right, get all there. Ooh, and that garlic from the garlic oil that was on here smells super good. All right, so we'll just kind of make sure this is all, I guess y'all can see what I'm doing pretty good. Get these little chunks out of there. And then I'm going to stir it around, and then it's ready to go. It is ready to eat. Supper is served as soon as I get this tossed in there. That's how easy this dish is. Comes together great. It reheats beautifully. And I'm actually going to throw a lid on this one because we still have to go out and feed. And we'll do that and then come back in, and supper is served. So see, we'll take this. And that's kind of another thing to think about. If you're not going to eat it right away, then it's going to sit in, you know, this heat on the stove with all the other vegetables, and your vegetables will continue to wilt, and your shrimp will continue to cook to a point. So if you know you're not going to eat it immediately, you might stop just a little bit sooner than you would have otherwise, because it's going to have the heat from, you know, just sitting in the pan. Yum. Y'all, this is, doesn't that look amazing? It smells amazing. It's going to taste amazing. So at this point, you're either ready to plate it and eat, cover it, and wait a little while. I would definitely test for seasoning. I mean, taste test. You know, just grab you a little bite out of it. Make sure you got the salt in it you want. It's always a good thing to do. And other than that, dinner is served. So, spaghetti squash chow mein. Y'all give it a shot. Let me know what you think. This would feed a good number of people and have some good leftovers. So, y'all try it, and I'll see you here at the next video.